Now, look, on this education crisis, can I say to you, without any sense of exaggeration or alarmism, I'm not into that game, it is, in my opinion, far worse than anything Mark Latham and I have said. The correspondence now I can't jump over. Parents through this program are waking up, but they're smart enough to know that nothing is being done. Governments everywhere are in open defiance of reality. Mark Latham's focused on New South Wales schools. Gladys Berejiklian has done nothing. Only today I had an email from a Victorian parent saying, quote, it was educational to witness the online classes children participated in during the lockdown last year. Primary school children reciting lengthy ditties insulting Tony Abbott and Donald Trump. But when asked to name the mayor of their council, their state premier or the prime minister, they have a blank look on their face. A few brave individuals, he said, are fighting a rearguard action, but I fear the battle is almost over. Business leaders, politicians, the public servants, the courts and educational facilities, he wrote, have all been captured or surrendered to the left. Writes the parents, it's embarrassing and depressing to watch and listen to President Biden, Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, the French and Canadian Prime Ministers, waffling on about climate change and COVID-19, while our countries and our way of life are imploding. Well, that's correct. You can contact Mark Latham, his office 9230-3682, or email him mark.latham@parliament.nsw.gov.au. Mark joins me again. Mark, thank you for your time. It seems that senior people in the education system are treating ministers of education and their policies with contempt. I mean, it's inconceivable, isn't it, that the New South Wales Education Minister can say about the issues we've raised here and you've raised in the Parliament, they've not come across a desk.
Well, it is unbelievable, Alan. And just to your earlier point about what we're dealing with here, I think, Alan, it's just the tip of the iceberg. These are just the things that we know about in the classroom. But there's 2,200 schools, many tens of thousands of classrooms in New South Wales, and we're dealing here with, I suppose, a small representative sample of what's really going on. Now, we've got a lot of material, school after school after school does ignore the Minister for Education, whether you're talking about political content in the classroom or the teaching and promotion of gender fluidity. Ministers, by and large, in the New South Wales government don't run their departments, and I can assure you the Minister for Education is not running the school system in our state.
Absolutely.
And, you know, results are going backwards, and this junk in the classroom is a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, it's just the indoctrination. I just want to repeat, because it's important, the question you asked the New South Wales Education Minister 10 days ago, and parents, listen to this. Mark Latham in the Parliament said, my question's directed to the Minister for Education and Early Childhood Learning. I refer the Minister to an answer on the notice paper saying that the Grow Your Mind consultancy, with its lessons on animal yoga and shark versus dolphin thinking, is being funded in 60 New South Wales government schools. He said, is the Minister aware of the podcast produced by Grow Your Mind, particularly on the 23rd of February, when an 11-year-old girl asks a boy if he has a crush on a student called Jess. When he answers no, the girl asks, are you a girl trapped inside a boy's body? That is, the boy must be transgender because he doesn't have a crush on Jess. Mark Latham asks, is the Minister aware of how the podcast continues with a female student saying, these people think she's a boy trapped in a girl's body? And despite repeated warnings about Grow Your Mind, how has the Minister, you said, allowed this dangerous, nonsensical rubbish into our schools, and why she failed so badly in her duty of care to the primary school students? She then said, Mark, she wasn't aware of the podcast.
Well, that's right. And it's a huge problem, Alan, that you raise these things and 10 days later I still haven't got a response. Back in March at the budget estimates, I've looked at these consultancies. One of the problems in the education system is external consultants. We're paying these people. They're swarming all over the schools under the banner of well-being and other nebulous concepts, and they're in the school producing dangerous political material and content like what you've just read out. Bewildering, totally bewildering for 11-year-olds, of course. And 10 days later, I still haven't got a response for the Minister. But back in budget estimates, I said, if you are a consultant coming into a school, the duty of care to the students must mean that these groups are accredited, their credentials and qualifications are checked, and there must be an evidence base what they're doing in the school is actually going to add to student results and academic attainment. So why haven't we got an accreditation scheme for people coming into our school? Anyone who goes into a school needs a working with children check, you sign in and so forth. Why aren't these groups accredited? Why hasn't the minister acted on what I raised in March? And at that budget estimates, I raised with the then head of the department, Mark Scott, an outfit called Resilience Donut. He thought it was some kind of joke. No, it's in your schools, in your system, something as nonsensical as Resilience Donut, along with Graham and all these other consultancies. There's another one called High Resolves that is really, really full-on political indoctrination. These outfits are everywhere, and the minister's doing nothing to control them or give them an accreditation scheme.
But Mark, never mind a minute, where is the Premier of New South Wales? Parents have got to understand this is total indoctrination of our kids. We'll run out of time tonight, but I do want to talk to you next week about this High Resolves consultancy, which is in dozens, you just mentioned, New South Wales schools: Kincumber, Sydney Boys, Prairie Wood, James Roos, Hornsby Girls, Ryde, established by leading members of the Baha'i faith in Australia. They believe in one world government and the abolition of the nation state. The Baha'i run and fund the program. I mean, Mark, who knows this is going on apart from you?
Well, I'm mentioning this in the Parliament and raising the alarm bells all the time. And, you know, this High Resolves Baha'i group, we shouldn't have religious organisations teaching this stuff in schools. They've developed an alternative curriculum. Here's some of it, Alan, you know, pages and pages of alternative curriculum. Has that been approved by NESA in New South Wales? It's wall-to-wall political indoctrination, pushing so-called colorism, gender as a social construct, microaggressions, global identity politics, critiquing so-called white privilege, and on it goes. This is just straight from the woke green handbook, indoctrination straight to the students. And parents have raised it with me, saying, how can this be in our schools? And most importantly, how are we paying for this junk?
Good on you. Listen, we'll go through that next week, Mark. You're doing a phenomenal job. People are waking up, but at the end of the day, government are doing nothing. Gladys, you better start focusing on some of this stuff, because it's a serious issue, and it will be at election time, I can assure you, and Mark and I will make sure it is. Mark, talk to you next week. Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for your attention to it, Alan. And Gladys is asleep at the wheel. She said back to basics. It's back to political indoctrination. That's all we've got.
Good on you. There he is. Absolutely that. Mark Latham.